Dean DeWinter, can you hear me? Okay. Let me give you some co-host abilities here. I think we need more things for the talk. So how are you gonna go with that? You can help, I did all of the emotional and physical labor. Okay, so I've made you a co-host so you can share the presentation. I'm gonna mute our end because we're a little noisy right now, but you can get started whenever. And then if we just ask that we have about 5 or 10 minutes near the end for some questions, if that's all right with you.
Sure thing. Yeah, thank you.
All right, go ahead whenever you're ready.
So is it ready to start at this time?
Sorry, no. Yeah, I think we're ready. Thank you so much.
No, that's great. So hello everyone. I don't think I've met many of you in person. My name is Jennifer DeWinter. I'm the Dean of Lewis Arts and Letters, and I just want to give you a little bit of background on how we started the honors program. Last year, my first year of being dean, we had a number of students taking Lewis courses come talk to us when we were doing our initial discovery phase about how they wish that there was an honors program for them to participate in. As the Dean of Lewis, I started developing an honors program for Lewis only students. We ran focus groups with students, focus groups with faculty. We benchmarked to other institutions. In coordination with a number of students, our office progressed in developing a plan for an honors program in Lewis. We took it to the provost, and the provost and the VP of enrollment asked us to think more broadly than Lewis and to expand it to think about the university as a whole. And so while we didn't initially start doing that, the programs that we were benchmarking ourselves to were university-wide honors programs anyway. So we expanded our steering committee to include representatives from all of the undergraduate degree granting colleges. So business, engineering, computing, Lewis, architecture. So with that in mind, just kind of a historical context, this group then came together and started to develop this plan as a whole. So the mission statement of the honors program that we're imagining for Illinois Tech is that Illinois Tech Honors Research Program provides a space for incoming and current undergraduate students to build self-efficacy and confidence through opportunities in research, academics, and service learning activities. The mission is to elevate students' own curiosity, development, and motivation. As such, motivated students in good academic standing will always be welcome into this program rather than a top-down invitational approach. So it's student demand driven rather than rarefied invitations. Students in the honors program will participate in cross-disciplinary learning communities throughout the academic year. They'll participate in co-curricular activities that support continuous engagement in the honors program. These opportunities will be through such platforms as Elevate, Leadership Academy, and others. And when we talk about others, we're really talking about things happening inside of the colleges that are already happening and will be tracked through the suitable platform or something comparable to that platform. They'll complete an original honors thesis or project comprised of an area of research or expression that may or may not be in a student's major area. So a student might be majoring in mechanical engineering, but they want their honors project to be something in theater. And so there is broad applicability to this. Receive recognition as an honors scholar during graduation to celebrate their achievements, such as an honors cord, an honors certificate, a LinkedIn badge, and so forth. We have 2 pathways for admission into the honors program as we're currently conceiving it. The first is first year and transfer students. So students first joining Illinois Tech, they would be nominated through undergraduate admissions. They'd be accepted into Illinois Tech and be in an upward trend of academic performance. So we know, sorry, I'm opening up my soda water right now. So that we know that students in their first year of high school might flounder for many reasons. And so what undergraduate admissions looks for is an upward trend of student excellence. Must have at least one experience in the following categories, either research and academic experience, such as working in a lab internship, partnering with science and or robotics fairs, participation in a high school honors society, or leadership and service experiences such as volunteer and community service, academic life and resiliency, leadership in co and extracurriculars, including peer mentor and tutors. For students that are already students at Illinois Tech, they can apply through the honors platform. And so anyone who wants to be an honors student just needs to be in good academic standing as maintained by academic affairs, hold the minimum GPA as required by the student's major or 3.0. And this is actually a point of discussion that we're still talking about. Do we want to make it good academic standing according to whatever the major says? And that is actually often lower than a 3.0, or should the bar be 3.0? And people have good arguments for both sides, which is why we have not settled on that. Must have a minimum of 45 credits left until graduation. So they can't join the honors program and graduate with honors, like, for example, in their last semester. They have to spend some time in the honors program. We did a bunch of benchmarking on the no GPA requirement. And so many peer institutions with honors programs are moving away from GPA requirements completely, or instituting much more forgiving and inviting GPAs, such as 2.8 to 3.2 range. Instead, we're moving towards a more holistic application and engagement process that's used to ensure that students have equitable opportunity and enrichment from the honors program. And then we use the National Collegiate Honors Council document that advises against using GPAs as a mechanism for barring students from programs. So here's some benchmarking data. I'm happy to go into that in depth if you'd like me to, but you can kind of see how there's no minimum GPA requirement to apply to it, but that there are review processes for each of these universities. I put this one on here just because it's lovely how they talk about it. This is Gonzaga University in Washington State. And they say on their website, we know that you're more than just your GPA. We want to get to know you as a potential honors ZAG. So you can see over here that there's no minimum GPA requirement. That said, on this same website, they write, while there's no minimum GPA to be admitted to the program, current students in the program entered with a range of 3.61 to 4.0 unweighted GPA. This is not using GPA as a mechanism of exclusion, but it is noting that people who opt into such a program often have higher GPAs, for whatever that means. Engagement in the honors program, that we, again, benchmark to a number of different places. So the NCHC notes that the following best practices are regarding retention. So not setting an artificially high GPA requirement to stay in the program, establishment of a year-long probationary period for students who return to, students to return to standard, and allowing student petitions to remain in the honors program if well aligned with academic goals. So overall engagement is to maintain the GPA required by the major or 3.0, and then continuously engage in honors research program events, sponsored events or approved events during the academic years. These may include, but are not limited to, Elevate sponsored programs or research, such as Study Abroad and Study Away, or other Elevate programming that you'll find online, experiential learning activities with peers and faculty, service learning activities through the Office of Student Life, Honors Senior Research Symposium, activities sponsored by other Illinois Tech programs such as Leadership Academy, and then extracurricular activities incorporating existing partnerships, including the City of Chicago, MSI, Field Museum, that sort of thing. And then all students who are in the honors program must complete an honors thesis or project comprised of research or expression in a field of interest. So here's what this might look like for a student. Say like Carmen is a first-year incoming student, has been nominated through the undergraduate admissions process, and is going to do 4 complete years, 2 per semester per academic year. Carmen needs to be collecting 4 points, and points are really arbitrary. It's just a way to start tracking engagement. Carmen might go to an Arts Club Chicago Honors excursion, go to a college computing panel, colloquium thing on AI, attend a weekend chemistry workshop that she learned about from her gen ed chemistry class, and then also the honors welcome orientation. In year 2, there might be another excursion to Argonne. She participates in a research poster day. She attends a talk over at College of Architecture that she learned about on medieval architecture, and attends an ethics research symposium. Year 3, she's decided to study abroad, and also goes on a couple excursions sponsored by the honors program or by departments that are already doing these excursions. And then in year 4, the heavily weighted thing would be the honors thesis or project that spans both fall and spring. And then also in support of that, attending the bibliographic research workshop and also doing an excursion. You can compare Carmen to a current student, Sarah, who is in good academic standing and joins it in year 2. The thing that you'll notice is that there's no backwards points gathering. So the fact that someone joins in year 2 doesn't mean that they need to make up for all year 1 report or all year 1 activities. They just need to move forward and collect up points. And so a very similar type of movement through different types of opportunities that would be available to any student that are actually already, we pulled these examples from things that are already happening on campus. And then here we have our last person, Lamar, transfers in during their junior year and joins the honors program at the end of fall of their junior year, thus giving them spring of their junior year and year 4. Applying for the honors project or thesis. So this is adapted from Purdue, Iowa State, URI, and Rice. We looked at many websites to figure this one out. So project or research approval is initiated by students. Students fill out a form that asks the following types of questions. What type of project is it? What's the context? What's the deliverable? What's that student's individual contribution? What's the project management agreed upon by the student and the faculty advisor? And then what's the form of public presentation of it? Whether it be poster presentation day on campus to an art exhibition to whatever else. The expectations of faculty are those who agree to advise an honors student project will mentor the student through their project using faculty expertise in the field. It's academic oversight if the mentor is a staff member or a community member outside of Illinois Tech. Ensure that the student is creating substantial professional work and communicate with the student as defined between the student and the faculty advisor on that previous slide to ensure that the student is meeting deadlines and final approval. Faculty ask a lot of questions about organizational structure. So I'm just going to tell you about it because it is a proposed organizational structure. But at the same time, it is not something that we have a say over. This would come out of the provost's office. The organizational structure we are proposing is one of shared governance, ensuring that all of the relevant stakeholders have input into the running of the program. And so let me just actually move forward. The honors consortium as part of this shared governance would be made up of program and honors-based groups, allowing discipline-specific honorifics and research components. Program-based groups would share administrative and marketing support with the consortium executive director. The colleges would be tasked in developing a college-based honors program consistent with the general tenets of the consortium. The advisory panel would provide counsel and guidance to the consortium, sharing best practices across the university community and ensuring widespread awareness and buy-in to the consortium. And the consortium would be housed within a special office of the provost strategic programs in coordination with the colleges. And so here we have an organizational chart. Right now, we have a person in charge of our leadership academy. This is George Langley. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to work with him. George will be retiring at the end of this year. He's actually not a 40-hour-a-week person. And so the person that we would bring in to replace George would continue the work that George is already doing, which is excellent. But that job would then be expanded to now oversee the honors program. So this honors consortium leadership thing is really a stay as is. Like, look at it and just understand like this person would do that, but we're not proposing any changes to that at all. All we're saying is that in addition to that, Now we have this honors research program that this leadership and honors research director would oversee. And that person would be informed by an advisory board over here, and then help to organize and track honors activities in the different colleges. The organizational activities chart, again, is broken down much more carefully here, but all of this remains the same as it currently is, only this becomes different. Shamaya was the person who helped me put together the slide deck, and I wanted to recognize her, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
I'll just start off. Thank you, Dean DeWinter. Would you be able to share the slide deck with me so I could share that with all the members that aren't present today?
Of course. I mean, understanding that it's in draft form, and I can also send you the current draft form of the actual written proposal, if that's useful.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Sure.
And I'd like to just open it up to questions. If you have a question, just come on up front so that Dean DeWinter can hear you, and we'll start with Avery.
So I noticed that in the different examples you were providing, you focused exclusively on 4-year programs. So I know 5-year, like the architecture program is a 5-year undergrad only program. Would there be significant changes or adaptations that would be made if we're looking at a 5-year program or something like that? Like, how does this adapt to different situations?
Sure. So any student who's in the honors program is needing, from the moment that they enroll, they need to be engaging in 4 points a year, the way that we're currently conceiving it, right? In order to engage in a community. So a 5-year program, the only one I can think of is out of architecture. Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so if it's a 5-year program, then whatever that honors project or thesis is in would likely happen in the 5th year, although we don't even mandate that that honors project or thesis has to happen in the 5th year or the 4th year or the final year. It tends to happen there when we did our benchmarking data, but around 10% of the students moved it down into an earlier year. So anything that would go longer than 4 years, or any student who goes longer than 4 years in a 4-year program, because that happens as well, would just, again, be participating 2 points worth per semester.
Hello, I had a follow-up question to that. Would co-terminal follow a similar principle to that, since you're technically doing graduate at an undergraduate data point? I don't know.
Sure. So we've been talking about co-terminals as well, because we have about 20% of our population does about co-terminals. And in the 5th year, they wouldn't still be doing honor stuff unless they wanted to, right? Like, we're not saying, haha, you're out. That once they finish their project and finish their undergraduate, that they have completed honorific work at the undergraduate level.
Does that answer your question, Andrew? Name.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, okay, great. I have a question. So so I'm in a situation where I would not qualify because I graduate in May.
Sure.
And in the future, like, will accommodations be made for students who may not have had this opportunity before if they've done activities in their past 5 years or so to say, like, retroactively qualify or so for the honors program?
I think the question is easier asked in terms of, like, during this transition launching time. Sorry, my husband's coming down the stairs very loudly behind me. Hold on just a moment. So during this honors launching time, do we need to consider ways in which we might be able to onboard people who would then be in their senior year next year if we were to launch next year? I imagine that we could figure that out, but I think after the initial launch transition, we would not want to be doing that. Like, the logistics of that are pretty rough, and you wouldn't be part of an honors community at that point. And that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out how to grow.
Okay, thank you. And then also, I guess a follow-up question. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
I guess a follow-up question to that would be, would this honors community say intersect with other leadership and existing communities on campus within different colleges?
Yes, absolutely. So in fact, we already have honors clubs here in different departments or different colleges. And in fact, what it would do is elevate those, not take them over. So if you're already doing honorific activity, those would count towards the points, right? If you're already in a robotics club, that would be counting towards the points. So if you really think of kind of like what's happening on the Elevate platform as activities that count toward this, what we're trying to do is focus all of those activities that students are already doing and say like everything that you're doing like matters. It shows intellectual curiosity, it shows engagement in personal growth, and then you capstone it off with this personal research project or creative project.
Thank you.
I'm back. I have two more questions.
Awesome.
So one, I know with some universities, they put like a cap to the number of people in their honors program. I wasn't here at the very beginning of your presentation. I don't know if you went over that or if this was just going to be anybody who's eligible is able to join.
Anybody who's eligible can join, but it's on the student to join it. So we don't automatically put them into it. And this is in fact, when we were looking at both our AITU peers and so AITU is being the private technology universities, right? When we were looking at them, and then we were looking at the top ranked honors programs nationwide, they're pretty open, like they're very welcoming. And yet, even with that welcomingness, only about 20 students self-select into a program like this, or 20 students, 20% of students, math, self-select into a program like this.
Okay. And then my follow-up question, well, a different question I had was, you mentioned like the extra like research thesis perspective as part of that. And we have iPro here. So how do those two?
Yep. So iPro would actually not count towards this. So this has to be extracurricular. This has to be above and beyond and kind of student driven. So things that could count is like you started a project in iPro and like, I don't know, you went through the toy iPro and you made like a kick-ass toy and iPro's over. So now you go to an advisor and say, I want to keep on iterating on this toy and bring it to market. Now we've moved into honors.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions at this point? All right. Seeing as that's all our questions, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you. And can I just say something really quick? I know that we opened it up for questions, but we're still in formation. So if you have a good idea that we did not think about, or you want to push back on one of the things that you've heard, feel free to email me. Like nothing is precious to me. This needs to reflect the will of the students.
Yeah, there's another question. Somebody was asking, do you have a tentative launch date for the program?
We're hoping to have the first test cohort in fall, if we can get it through faculty governance.
Okay. All right. Any other last minute questions? All right. Thank you so much, Dean.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great one. Okay. So we will move on. I believe you are first, Maya.
Is it okay if I sit for this one?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, hi guys, this week I can't move that much, so I'm gonna be sitting while I'm announcing this. So I came to the Senate last week, just announcing a cleanup event. That's a collaboration between the organization that I'm president of, American Chemical Society, sees they're more into environmental engineering, and then obviously SGA. We have a poster that we'd love to share with you guys with a concrete date and time. And yeah, so there's that. I highly encourage everybody shows up. We are trying to work out some community service hours, so everything is still kind of in the works, so I can't really promise anything yet. But we are working on it, we're trying to get that sorted out, and it's a great opportunity to bond with both each other, see the community, and just meet some new people, make some new connections, so. Once again, highly encourage, we'll have a more concrete closer within the next 2 weeks, so, awesome, thank you.
31st Street Beach, right?
Something like that, we're working on.
Okay,
Yeah.
details to follow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other senator or exec announcements? I'll start with Naeem. I insist, Naeem. Oh,
Mine's quick, food advisory board meeting tomorrow, 3:30. I'm probably actually gonna go sit in the commons during the meeting. So if you wanna come join me, you can, but I'll send out the invite to that tomorrow morning.
is there an incentive to go?
If you go, you still get the $15 food vouchers that you can use at any meal location on campus other than like a vending machine. So, still get it.
Thank you, Andrew. And then Naeem.
Go to the process center. I don't, process center, okay, yeah.
Especially for on the board quickly.
Hey, everyone. So yes, the teacher and me from last semester is coming out. So, so we have the SGA executive election debates that are occurring within the next X amount of days or so. Yay! And just so everyone is aware, I did send an announcement in the SGA chat, and I will be emailing out this information probably to everyone tonight. We have our first set of debates tomorrow, so that will be Thursday. That is the 28th. And that will include Vice President of Residence Life, Vice President of Campus Life, and Vice President of Engagement at that debate specifically. The next set of debates will be on Friday, the 29th. That will include we're just gonna write that, VP. Okay, that's gonna include Vice President of Academic Affairs, Vice President of Research Affairs, and Vice President of DEI. And lastly, we have Monday, April 1st. April Fool's Day will be reserved for not a foolish debate with our EVP, Finance Board Chair, and presidential candidates. So, any questions about this? Yeah.
I'm moderating the debates as editor in chief of Tech News. If you are running, and I'm like he posted in the Discord and he'll be emailing it later. Please read the questions ahead of time. One of the things we dealt with before is a time crunch. Read the questions ahead of time. Get your answers down to like 45 seconds max, or as much as possible, so we can just keep it going. Because I want all of y'all to have time. And if you feel like you can't get something out of the debates, use it in your campaign. Thank you.
There we go. So yeah, wish to call 113 that was also sent out and is from 12:50 to 1:40 p.m. on each of these days. Same place, same time, same location. Any questions? Just make sure you know what position you're running for. If you are running for them, if you're in one of these sets, make sure you are present. Make sure that you have looked over your questions ahead of time, as Chris has suggested, and come energized and ready to tell us what you're about and why you would like to run for your position. We're really excited to hear from you. The campus is excited to hear from you. And yeah, so everyone. And then just so you know, the election is on April 3rd, starting at midnight and going until 5 o'clock p.m. I'm not done yet. Okay.
I know last year they sent out the like number of people running for every position. Do we have that for this year?
You know what, Andrew? I'm glad you asked that question because guess what? That sounds like news, everyone. And do you know where we find our news? With Tech News. Yes, Tech News is releasing that information. The information. Who's running?
Who's running? Yeah,
I-
it'll be published this week.
Yeah. So Tech News will be exclusively breaking that information. When does the Tech News come out?
It comes out tomorrow.
Comes
It'll be distributed throughout the day. But we will post it online on our website, like as soon as possible.
Okay, excellent. So everyone, keep your eye out on Tech News for the official scoop on who's running for what. Ooh, it should be exciting. Yeah.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay.
And, will you take a picture or?
This
are
is
you gonna
already an
post it?
announcement.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
That's all I want. Sounds great. Any other senator or exec announcements? If not, I would like to invite Eric forward for an open floor segment. Yes, so I will pass the baton.
What? Who said you should come at 7:30?
Oh, Jacob said I should on something. He was trying to exclude me. Anyways. You have to bear with me because I don't have my glasses, so it'll be a little hard to see this. All right. I want to just get one last speech in before the elections because it's pertinent. And I was actually listening to Joseph, and I think what he was saying kind of matches the tone of what I wanted to say. And I've personally seen on and offline that people have been questioning the ability for the student government to be a properly functioning body. And there have been many people saying that SGA is ineffective and unable to, in their eyes, get shit done. Now, I believe that SGA, even this year, has gotten a lot done for the student body that has gone unnoticed. And I do resonate with these complaints because it does seem that there have been substantial issues in some regards. The first thing is the new open floor policy, which seems counterproductive, especially for the average student, having to go out of their way to say, I'm going to go to open floor and speak seems very kind of out of the way to do something. Oftentimes people will want to speak when they come to SGA, like they'll have the idea, oh, I want to say something during open floor, but they didn't have the intention to do that when they came here. That kind of seems exclusionary. And, not everyone knows that you have to go out of your way to email SGA to do that. So it just seems kind of silly. And it also seems very pointed. I mean, I'm not going to dwell on it, but it does seem like it's a targeted move by Derek. In any case, I think it should be overturned. It doesn't seem like it's going to affect the sanctity of SGA if that rule exists or not. So, but circling back to the chief issue is SGA's ability to get stuff done. In my opinion, I think this will be traced back to last year, and as much as everyone would hate to hear it, I think it's worth mentioning again. When the administration stepped up and overruled the decision-making of SGA, it showed everyone here that the work is entirely frivolous, that ultimately it's not really your call to do anything. And if the admin really wanted to, they could take this over in a heartbeat and sort of make the decisions for us, kind of ruining the sanctity of SGA entirely. Especially specifically the decision to allow AEPI to exist on campus showed that SGA was simply a facade and created a terrible precedent for the student body. Furthermore, it also showed SGA's inability to take a stand not only for ideas, but for people. A large majority of people who are in or were in SGA at the time would agree that Nova should not have been barred from SGA, or at the very least should still be allowed to attend the sessions. However, instead of taking a meaningful stand to stand against the overbearing rulings of the J board and these sets, we kind of just sat back and let it happen. And now here we are a year later, and SGA is all the worse for it. Which brings me to my ultimate point is that regardless of who wins this upcoming election, I hope that people at the helm of the ship can take a stand for the students, that the group of executives can have more bite than bark, and can fight for what they believe in. I hope that people remember that SGA is supposed to be the voice of the student body and has a lot of power to meaningfully advocate for students. Obviously, this goes beyond what I've mentioned and expands to making sure that students are treated fairly, ensuring that issues that students encounter are meaningfully addressed by administrators, and that everyone's voices are heard. Remember that when voting, we're not just voting for ideas, but and what ifs and have-nots, but about the ability and confidence of our leaders to actually get the stuff that we want to do done. You can say all you want, but it's only, you can only walk so far. So how far can our leaders walk? Not to say that anyone in particular has been ineffective, but as a student body. So I hope that as such, the next leaders can hopefully take the helm of the ship a little bit further and get more stuff done. I understand it's been a tumultuous year, so hopefully this next one, whoever comes into power, will have some good ideas and have some motivation to get it done.
And then as Joseph said, something that I kind of now am amending to my speech is, why are we having these senator one-on-one sessions now instead of way back a year ago or way back in the beginning of winter when we could have been addressing these issues with the e-board now? Why is it the e-board's issue now to make this something to talk about? I'm not saying it, that this is something, maybe it just came up as an idea, but this should have been something that we should have addressed much, much, much sooner than we have now. And it does show that the student government has a sort of inability to function properly, at least until it gets some form of pressure onto it. So that's all.
Many of the points that Eric brought up were something that was kind of mentioned last week, and so thank you for bringing them up again. And I think we're kind of all in agreement that something does need to change. So I hope that this starts a positive cycle forward. And I had the same conversation with Patrick today, that we want this to be a positive thing where we can grow from this and this past year. So with that, I will invite Chris up to discuss some topics. I don't remember what they were, so I'll let you know.
Hi guys, I have two main things I want to talk about. First is more broadly for the student body. And that is that, especially compared to other institutions, IIT does not have the same resources to help place its students in internships. And especially if you're in a not so STEMmy major, like social science, even though it's a science, humanities, that kind of stuff, there's very few resources. I went to some career fair stuff. None of the people knew how to help someone in the psych department, which is not their fault. It's just the way the chips have landed. But one of the issues is that, at least for my degree program, I am required to get an internship. But since it's a requirement, but I'm not really getting much assistance. Professors will email opportunities, but there's no connections or as much working with other companies to make sure that IIT students have a spot, especially since it's required. It's a little upsetting. I even got rejected from one where it was the Museum of Science Industry, which is specifically for IIT students. So I just feel there's a lack of resources, especially for international students, because they have to deal with all the visa stuff and all that craziness. And so I think there should be more support or kind of a reevaluation on how the school or the different departments within the school approach internship requirements for students, if they are not going to actively help those students find those internships. It just feels a little like we're kind of adrift. My second thing I want to talk about is actually the executive elections, because I think everyone who's involved can agree it's a lot. There's a lot of responsibilities and things you have to do. And this is just me kind of saying, as someone this is my second year doing the debates, and I'll be doing it next year because I'll still be editor-in-chief. I have some ideas to make things go a bit smoother, and I know I'm willing to help on Tech News' side to make things go more smoothly, because I feel like there's sort of the EEC is doing everything, and the Tech News is kind of just like, yeah, we're gonna ask questions. I feel like we could do more to support the EEC and SGA in these cases. And so I just want to open that up and bring that into the public, because we had the resolution passed recently, but Tech News does want to maintain a nice close relationship with SGA. We appreciate y'all. We want to talk about y'all more, and vice versa. So yeah, just hit me up. I'm willing to chat, honestly, in person, remote, through Discord, whatever. Because I think there's so much that could be done that could help everybody involved with the executive election process. Yes. Yeah. So I think one of the things that would be nice would be to start things like a week or two earlier. The turnaround time this year was a little fast, like the most recent orientation was like this week, and we have debates also this week. So doing it a bit earlier, and I also think, since the tech news editor-in-chief is the one who historically does moderate the debates, being more back and forth with them about when the debates happen so that they can fit the schedule of everybody better. Yeah, I think those are my two big ones for now, and I don't think those are like difficult. I just think it's something we haven't thought of till now.
It is, yeah, so, I'll just communicate from the EEC side, yeah, no, it's a lot. We had to actually go in and vote to actually give more time for nominations, because we were running, it was nominations, if we had not done anything, would have ended dead in the middle of spring break, which obviously would have been a problem, so, we had to vote to change that. But then that literally left us with little time, for everything else. I'm not sure, maybe could be argued we could have gone the other way, but it didn't seem fair, at least all of us, I think unanimously agreed, it didn't seem fair to end nominations in the middle of spring break. Like
Yeah.
that just didn't make any sense, and it would seem unfair to students who wouldn't get the chance to run. So yeah, it was literally that, and we had to scrunch orientations into this time slot, debates into this time slot. So we try to get that calendar out as early as possible, which I know we released it before spring break, but still, it's the schedule.
One week to two.
Yeah,
I feel like people, that would also be an easy vote, because I feel like people would want things to be easier to do.
because there's not much campaigning time. There's a lot of scrunch, and it's not there. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are we like is it open for discussion on those two topics?
Yeah.
Anything out if you want to. Avery, you can go ahead.
I wanted to follow up on the internships for a moment. As someone who I am from an area that just simply is too small to offer architecture internships, I can't find something back home. And not one of the architecture internships that Career Services worked with offered any type of subsidized housing, and Elevate did not respond to any of my emails when I asked for information on how I could apply the Elevate scholarship that I received to help cover housing. So because there was nothing that was help subsidized for my major, Elevate would not respond to my emails, and I don't live somewhere that's big enough to offer internships for my major. I was immediately locked out, and that's an issue with Elevate for not responding to me, and that's something that I'm sure we could do more with Career Services to help find places that are willing to help subsidize things like housing. I know some of my friends have gotten it for things like cybersecurity before. I'm sure it exists for other majors too. That was this year.
Certainly, like something that I think, and I noticed this because I was literally out on conference going to essentially a national career fair. So, people have communicated to me a lot of issues, not only regarding internships, and I was even frustrated looking for full-time jobs. And literally, I kid you not, like I go to HP stand, they're like, oh, we intern. And I was just like, what? Because I was told during the fall that, oh, well, you were looking for interns back then. Spring should be for full-time jobs. They're like, no, we want interns, we want interns, we want interns. That's not an IIT specific thing though. What I did notice in particular to international students and just internship availability for other majors, I think Career Services, I understand they can only do so much, and they most certainly have to kind of divvy up their abilities to more popular majors at the school, whether or not those are STEM majors probably. It would be beneficial, I think, for Career Services to partner with other universities that are more humanities-based and connecting with those career fairs and connecting students to those career fair opportunities. I think, there's only going to be so much IIT can do in that space, and it's probably not going to be sufficient. But there are schools where, companies already know, oh, this is a school for, the arts, social sciences, et cetera, psychology school, et cetera. Those relationships already exist, if IIT can kind of latch on to those and connect students to those and feed them through that pipeline, I think that would be more beneficial than us try to start something on our own, at least in the interim. Because they already exist. There are liberal arts colleges, you know, especially in the Chicagoland area, that have opportunities and things going on. If we can get connected to those so that our students can benefit that aren't in STEM related fields, you know, I think that would be great. Oh, Angela. I'll talk about international students then.
I was gonna kind of bounce off of your point, so I actually found that idea to have a more like a career fair, but for like a niche group of students. Specifically like chemistry, physics, bio, like this is more of like an engineering for like computer science, so those are people who are reflected in the companies that come, and actually I reached out and I had another person from that organization reach out, and I think that they're very also willing to collaborate with student organizations. So maybe I would even say maybe reach out to your student organization if you guys have one, I'm not sure. Yeah. So yeah, so like maybe they'd be willing to work with the student organization because you guys know, right? And you guys have the professors who know what's, you know, prevalent in terms of internships, and maybe they just need that helping hand in organizing.
I do want to say one last thing, because that reminded me, the specific degree that I'm getting, for my co-terminal is, Masters of Industrial Organizational Psychology. Probably don't know what that is. But, it is something that when you talk to people at IO professional conferences, IIT is known for it. IIT, they're like, oh, wow, you're going to IIT? That kind of stuff. And so it feels a little crazy that we're not getting the career support to kind of match that. It's not pedigree, it's when people know you. I'm very tired. Recognition.
I think pedigree also works.
Yeah, but for that kind of recognition, I feel like we're not getting the right amount of investment. But I also understand at the end of the day, there's like money issues and stuff like that. I just wanted to bring attention to this, because the job market's really bad. It's really bad this year. Some of the statistics from the Fortune 100 companies is that within the Fortune 100, internship openings are down 47%. So it's just especially competitive this year. So, yeah, and that's all for me.
Thank you so much. With that, we're just gonna move into a break. So grab some food. We're gonna do, Reswan should be here around 7:30. So then we'll move into some one-on-one meetings where we can collect some feedback.
So there, how about section though, like the rest of us are set idle?
Yeah, so how we're gonna do it is, we're going to have, you're going to be one-on-one with Reswan in another room, but the audio will be live streamed in here so people can take notes, build off the feedback that others are giving. If you don't want it live streamed in here, you just have to say it. Reswan will mute, take your notes, and they'll be anonymous. Is basically how we're going to run it.
Is that with every, is that only with senators or?
Voting members.
Okay.
So you're on the list. Yes.
It will really get tomorrow, but we're gonna bring out the.
Yeah, that, I have it on my.
No, I have a meeting with my active provider.
Right,